What is up, guys? Ninja Nick back with another round of the Pokemon Trading Card Game World Championships 2023. I think I closed out the last video by saying 2024. I'm so deep into the 2024 season mentality that I think I messed that up. So that'll be funny to look back on later. We got Sydney on the left, Gabriel on the right. We've got can't really tell what the left deck is. It might just be Arceus, and of course I spend so much time trying to figure out what that is that I didn't even see the deck on the right. I think it was Lugia. I think I saw a Lugia there. He also has a Lugia plushie. That kind of gives it away. As I always like to say, don't give away what you're playing if you can avoid it, but I'm sure at this point in the tournament you know what your finals opponent will be playing. You've seen them play in top 4 at the table next to you. You have to know what a majority of their 60 looks like. So we are going to go for the Nest Ball. Yes, it does look like an Arceus deck versus a Lugia deck here. A little bit curious. It looks like Arceus Giratina on the left. My favorite version of Arceus for sure. I think that is the most consistent version. I think that having the Bibarel line in it is a lot better than, as we saw in the Junior Division Finals, having the Adventurer's Discovery engine instead. Using a supporter to try to just find evolutions just seems a lot less consistent than just being able to draw cards every turn, especially with that combination of the Squovet we have now, allowing you to put your hand on the bottom of the deck to draw some new cards is pretty great. So Gabriel, I'm curious to see if his is the single strike variant or if it's the full colorless variant. I do really like the full colorless variant. I think it's a little bit more consistent, but just a lot weaker overall because you don't have access to that Tyranitar. You don't have great ways to boost your damage output besides just the Wyrdeer. And yep, we are going to Nest Ball. We do put all of our Pokemon to the front of the deck just to make sure that we know what is prized and what is not. Makes perfect sense there. You want to be able to check your prize cards if you can. And in the Arceus deck, one of the most important things to check is your Pokemon lines. You only have a 2-2 Bibarel and a 2-2 Giratina. Make sure those pieces are in there. Do you even attempt to play the game if you have 3 Arceus V-Stars prized? Things like that. It is also important to check those energies. How many double turbos do you have? How many basic energies can you accelerate into play using that Arceus? Looks like we have a Slacking in here. A very interesting inclusion, and this may be the full colorless version. Yes, it is. Yeah, we see Wyrdeer as well. So I'm very excited to see this Lugia deck perform. It makes it a lot more consistent to be able to attack with the Lugia if you play only colorless energies. You can max out on your double turbos. If you so desire, you can play things like the Therapy Energy to make sure that you have a Snorlax that will never put itself to sleep because the Therapy Energy heals your own status conditions like that. And of course, there is Lugia watching on, cheering on his father there. So it looks like we do get a Lugia down, and we are going to be able to Luminion for Professor Burnett to get 2 Archeops into the discard pile already. An absolutely phenomenal start here from Gabriel. So the way that Lugia deck operates is that it does evolve into the Lugia V-Star. It uses its Summoning Star V-Star power to get 2 non-rule box colorless Pokemon from your discard and put them into play, so you can get those Archeops back out and use their ability Primal Turbo in order to get 2 special energies from your deck and put it onto one of your Pokemon every turn. If you can get 2 of them there out, you can get up to 4 energy cards every single turn into play. Very powerful when the standard game mechanics only allow you to attach 1 energy card from for a turn every single turn from your hand. So it looks like Sydney, unfortunately, has a very, very dead hand here. Is playing the boss's orders just to thin that hand out 1 more card to hopefully draw into something a little bit better here. And it looks like just another couple of supporters that Iono will be great for the next turn. And maybe getting that Luminion into active might buy him some time because that Luminion can no longer attack. We do not have access to that Aurora energy anymore ever since that rotation. So we are just going to Power Edge here for 110, 130 minus the 20 because of the double turbo energy. And we do see a double Lugia V-Star evolution and the 2 Archeops coming out from the discard pile. That is a pretty significantly huge turn here. Now the thing is if you have an energy card in hand to attach to the Luminion to retreat, you could use both Archeops to get 2 single colorless energies onto a Lugia with each Archeops, thus making it so there's no double turbos on your Lugia, making it so that you can one-shot this Arceus here. And it looks like that just might be the case. We do get 4 single colorless energies, no double turbos, nothing reducing that 220 damage, so it will still be at 220, exactly enough to knock out this Arceus, and this might just be the game right here. Gabriel taking a swift game 1 victory. We do have a attachment of the V-Guard from hand for turn to the Luminion. Will be able to retreat it and knock out the Arceus. Sydney only having a B-roll left in play. Even if you play the Iono here, that's not really going to do much of anything for you. You're just going to have to try to set up more Arceuses on the bench and hope that Gabriel just does not get a boss's orders. And of course, these Lugia decks do tend to play 2 Luminion, so it might be just an Ultra Ball away of finding a boss's orders in that way. And yeah, looks like we do find an Arceus as well as a Nest Ball. We can get 2 Arceus onto our bench this turn, which is exactly what we need to in order to even continue playing the game. But I think if I were Sydney at this point, I would just scoop to save time. We do have a 75-minute clock for the entire match, but I don't think this game is worth playing out anymore. So if these other 2 games do go extremely long, you have the time needed to be able to win those last 2. But again, it is 75 minutes, so you should have more than enough time to play all 3 games to completion. So it looks like Sydney is going to at least try. Maybe Gabriel has a whole bunch of energies in prize cards so that this Lugia is the only potential attacker for the whole match. I'm not sure what else you do at this point, though. I almost would argue that you play that Ultra Ball before you use the B-Roll, but it looks like we do find a Giratina here as well. But we also need an energy attachment to go down to one of these Arceus and for it to not get bossed up. And I don't see that happening. Gabriel does not necessarily need... Oh, has the Luminion for the boss's orders. What you could do here is actually... You could actually boss up the Giratina and knock it out. And Sydney can only respond with either of the 2 Arceus. Even if he gets the Arceus V-Star, you can just safely 2-shot it with both of your Lugias. And yeah, I think this game is completely over for Sydney, unfortunately. So Gabriel will be using his first Archeops. He is going to get a double turbo as well as a, looks like a gift energy to his Lugia V-Star. And here comes the Luminion, also using that Primal Turbo to check to make sure there is another boss's orders left in his deck before he puts that bench liability into play, taking away his access to a potential other attacker like the Wyrdeer would be really good to have the bench space for. So we're going to go for the boss. I would really like to see that Giratina come up, because you could always knock out the Arceus, but that could always evolve, search Raihan, and then power up the Giratina, and then you could be in a weird spot. Even though you'd still be favored to win at that point, but yep, just takes out the Giratina with another one shot here, and down to 2 prizes remaining. Sydney still hasn't even declared a single attack, does not have any energies in play, has no Arceus V-Stars whatsoever in play, but we will get one here. He better be playing the Raihan, Not all Arceus decks even play Raihan anymore, so I would really like to see a Starbirth for a Raihan so that we can get some sort of attack off here, and hopefully Gabriel cannot respond with yet another Boss's Orders. More than likely not going to be able to respond with yet another Boss's Orders, just because of the fact he already played 2 this game and used 2 Luminion. So we are going to Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Research and a Switch. Those are probably cards you do not need too much anymore. Sydney is going to probably rely on using Judge and Iono for the rest of the game to try to disrupt Gabriel's hand, but in actuality, that will only increase the likelihood that Gabriel could get energy into the deck for use with the Archeops, even though it will be reducing the odds that he has Boss's Orders. So again, this is feeling very much like a checkmate here. We are going to go for the Beaver Ultra Draw 5. Hopefully there is something pretty good off of this. Of course, using all your draw outs that you have before using your Starbirth, just in case you would have drawn into something that you would have gotten off of it. So I think the Starbirth needs to get a Raihan. You use the Raihan to get an energy back from your discard pile, and then search maybe the double turbo. Then you can go ahead and Trinity Nova this turn. You will have to charge up your second Arceus V-Star you have there on the bench. But that's, again, not going to get you too far into the game. It's just going to be two-shotting their Lugia with all the energy, but their other Lugia is still going to be fresh and ready to go on the bench, just one energy card away from swinging. So here is the Raihan. We have the nice play pack promo Raihan. That is a holo. Love to see that. We are going to search our deck for any one card. Probably going to be the double turbo so we can attack. It looks like that's exactly what it is. And then, yeah, just attach and Trinity Nova and hope for the best. Hope all the other, like, 15 energy left in the Lugia deck is all in the last 2 prize cards, I guess. Still has 63 minutes left on the clock, so definitely enough time to keep playing this game. Normally, best of 3 is 50 minutes, and you do not have that much time to piece that together. So, looks like we are going to start softening up the other Lugia on the bench by using the Radiant Alakazam that we have. That could potentially put that Lugia into maybe a one-shot range in the future. But I don't see that being very likely. Of course, the damage on the Luminion is not too impactful as well, because you're always doing 180 with your Arceus, even with the double turbo energy on it. So those Luminions should be pretty easy knockouts. So I think if Sydney does play Sharon's Care and Gabriel does not have access to any more Boss's Orders, there is the potential that Sydney could still pull this back. He could take an attack from Lugia here with this Arceus, then Sharon's Carrot back into hand, put the Arceus back down onto the bench for the next turn, and then just start getting energies out of the deck into play. Then maybe just use a couple Boss's Orders to knock out those Luminions in one hit after these 2. I mean, even if you, especially if you have 2 Sharon's Care in the deck, that would be absolutely amazing, but I don't see many Arceus decks even playing 1 Sharon's Care anymore, let alone 2. I really like playing the 1 myself. I have it in my Arceus Giratina list. It can just be so impactful when you are able to find it. Which is funny, because I love playing Sharon's Care in Arceus decks, but I hate playing Cheryl in Rapid Strike, so I don't know. I guess I'm just backwards from the rest of the world, because everybody else seems to do it the other way. They all love Cheryl in their Rapid Strike decks, but they don't like Sharon in their Sharon's Care in their Arceus decks anymore. And yeah, as you can see on the screen there, Pokemon is showcasing that Wyrdeer V. If it moves from the bench to the active, you can move any energies from your other Pokemon to it. So you can just use those Archeops to charge a whole bunch of energies into play. As soon as you have that one bench space open, you can just bench that Wyrdeer get all of the energies onto it and just hit big number, go burr. And that is why I personally like this colorless Lugia variation. So we are going to go for the 220 damage attack from the Lugia onto this Arceus, highly damaging it. And will we be able to see a Sharon's Care? We could even just retreat this Arceus as well, and then just hope that Gabriel does not have another boss's orders. That could work as well. But we are going to have to establish at least one more attacker for this game in order to pivot around these Arceus to prevent them from going down. Gabriel only needs 2 prize cards to win this game. Sydney is playing to all of their outs right now, and we are going to see the Iono going to put Gabriel's hand to 2 cards. I really like to see that Iono here. Sydney is still going to be able to draw their 6 cards, having 6 prize cards left. Gabriel drawing 2 for the 2 prize cards remaining. Reduce the likelihood of seeing a boss's order in the future. Again, you could always retreat this Arceus. We do need to find another Arceus potentially this turn to evolve into yet another Arceus V-Star. And again, would combo really well with a Sharon's Care on the next turn. If you do get that Arceus down, we do have a Giratina V-Star, so maybe we could just charge up a Giratina V this turn. That would not be too bad. It does hit 280 damage. There is no V-Guard energy on either of these Lugias, so you will be hitting the maximum 280 every time you do attack with it. And it combos very well with any more double turbo energies you can put onto your benched Pokemon. You could always just Lost Zone that and not have to Lost Zone any of the other energy cards that you have in play, so that the Giratina always stays at the 3 energy it needs. We are going to see an attachment of the turn. Going to draw 3 cards with the Biebs. Justin Bieber going to load that hand up with a couple more evolution Pokemon. And yep, here is the retreat as expected. So we're just going to hope Gabriel does not have another boss. And here comes Trinity Nova for 200, taking the knockout. We will be able to find 3 basic energy from our deck to put probably all onto the Giratina, or we could put 2 onto the Giratina and 1 onto the Arceus. Would actually feel pretty good as well. Yeah, I like that, because then you can just hard attach 1 basic energy to the Arceus if you need to attack with it again in a future turn as well. Oh yes, and Gabriel also has the gift energy here as well. So he is able to, even though the Iono put him at 2 cards left in hand, he will be able to draw until he has 7 cards, because that Lugia went down with the power of that gift energy. And that is one of the really annoying things about playing against Lugia, is that gift energy. I think gift energy is probably one of the most overpowered cards in the game, although the decks that it works in aren't very overpowered themselves, so thankfully it's not too much of an issue. Now that Regis are dead, you can really only play it in Lugia. So it looks like we are going to capturing Aroma, flipping a heads for evolution Pokemon, searching our deck for 1 evolution Pokemon, being that Archeops, just to thin that deck of 1 more card we don't potentially need. If we had an Ultra Ball, it would be really great to discard that Archeops. Not that we can Summoning Star a second time during the game, but just getting it out of deck so that we do not potentially redraw into it off of something like an Iono. We are going to Nest Ball here. We could find that Wyrdeer. And yeah, we might be able to go for all in with the Wyrdeer, putting it into the active spot, moving all of the energy remaining in deck to it. Now, what is Wyrdeer's base damage output? Isn't it like 40 damage times the amount of energy on it? Yes, it is. So that would be 60 for every double turbo and 40 for every other energy, because the double turbo counts as 2 when attached to a Pokemon, but also reduces 20. So you're doing 40 plus 40 is 80, minus 20 is 60. So 640. There's 140 damage already on board. And you can get another 160 from your deck with these Arceus. Do we have... That should be 300. The only problem is you have to retreat this Lugia. So do you have some sort of switching card? Do you play switch in the deck? Oh, we have a choice belt as well. Helps reduce the amount that you need by 1 energy. I think maybe we're looking to maybe draw into our own double turbo energy to attach for turn to the active to retreat it, so that then we can double Arceus to the Wyrdeer. But we can still just wait until next turn. There is no problem waiting until next turn. But now Sydney is going to, in fact, have to find Giratina V-Star boss's orders to knock out that Wyrdeer, otherwise probably losing. Because that Wyrdeer will be able to one-shot the Giratina if that becomes the active Pokemon, and that is the only one with no damage counters on it whatsoever. So yeah, it looks like we are going to attach to this Arceus that double turbo energy. We're going to Beaver Roll for 2. Can we find anything decent? We have an Ultra Ball. Do we play Luminion? No, there is a Path to the Peak in play of our own as well, I believe. So even if we had access to a Luminion to find that boss's orders here, we would not be able to play it because of our own Path to the Peak. That is one of the downsides of playing Arceus, is that you have to play that Path to the Peak in combination with things like Judge and Iono to even have a chance against decks anymore. But just very unfortunate that we also shut our own Luminions and Starbirths off with that. So is there any way that Sydney can potentially pull this game back? Been doing a pretty good job being able to put their death off as long as possible, but I don't think that we will be able to do it this time just because of that Wyrdeer. Although if we do knock out the Lugia, that will get rid of 4 energy in play currently. So we'll just have to see, will the Wyrdeer be able to take it from here, or does Gabriel have even a boss's orders would be able to do it as well? But of course that does activate the gift energy. We're going to draw until we have 7 cards in our hand here. That Lugia does go down. We could actually see this being won by Gabriel. We are going to use... Oh, we have double turbo left in decks. That is 100 damage. Using the second one, another 100 damage. And then attached for turn is... Oh, nope, a boss's orders we have instead. So, yep, gonna just hit for 200 on that bench Pokemon using our 3rd boss's orders of the game, and Gabriel is able to take it. So, shows you the power of the boss's orders. If Gabriel... If Boss's Orders was not a card that existed, I don't think Gabriel could have actually pulled that one out. I think Sydney was just very skilled at being able to pivot those Pokemon to the bench every time they took a hit. And yeah, that Lugia deck just would not be able to operate, only hitting at a maximum 220 damage every turn. And that Wyrdeer not being able to close it out because of not being able to have those other energies in play. But of course, Boss's Orders being a card that exists, Gabriel using it to full effectiveness, being able to find it off of those gift energies, thinning his deck as much as possible to be able to find that whenever needed. But yeah, that whole game was basically, when does Gabriel find 3rd boss? If it was in those last 2 prize cards, if he only plays the 2, that would have potentially been his game to lose. But again, that start was amazing as well, getting that turn 1 Luminion for Burnett going second. Looks like we do play the Pumpkaboo as well as our own. Oh, maybe that was Gabriel's Path to the Peak that we saw. Three judges in the prizes from Sydney, as well as double B-roll. Not looking like it's in the cards for Sydney here. That's very unfortunate. I don't like seeing non-games happen. I like playing non-games when I'm in a tournament like this, but yeah, if you're Gabriel and you could see those prize cards from your opponent, I would be feeling pretty happy. Maybe the judge doesn't matter too much because you do have the gift energy, but seeing the double B-roll in the prize cards, especially now Sydney benching a Bidoof, completely useless until we see any prize cards be taken to be able to find that B-roll. Looks like we are going to go for a research. What are we discarding here? Looks like an Arceus V-Star, a Boss, a Snorlax, and a double turbo. That is quite a few good resources. Although it seems like the Lugia trades a little bit better against the Arceus deck, so I can understand getting rid of that Snorlax. Having to get rid of that Lugia V-Star early is pretty bad, though, because you do have two Lugias in play. You will want to evolve both of those. You will have to not have the other two in your prize cards now. And it looks like just a pass after having that, I think, V-Guard attached for a turn. We are going to see an escape rope is going to force the Lugia with no energy into the active spot. And of course, just a Burnett in hand, not even needing the Luminion this time. Going to be able to discard those two Archeops and gets the second Lugia V-Star, evolving that bench to one into it, and we're gonna just start charging energy. Even at worst, we could always go for the, oh, what's it called? The discard draw 2 that the Lugia in the active can do. Oh, discard draw 3. And yeah, it looks like we are gonna go for 2 energy to the benched Lugia as well as a double turbo to the active. If we have another double turbo for turn, we could actually attach, but no, we actually have the jet energy. We're able to attach the jet energy to our bench Lugia, which does make it become the active Pokemon whenever you attach that jet energy to your benched Pokemon. Puts down a Path to the Peak and hits for a one-shot on this Arceus. Yet again, this Lugia deck looking like it does have a pretty decent matchup against Arceus decks. Of course, that Path to the Peak is also important, since you do not have a way around the Duraludon otherwise. I can see why this Lugia V-Star deck would be playing it, especially since you do have your own Pumpkaboo. The promotion of the Giratina seems very odd to me, but I guess if you have a completely dead hand, you're just doing that to stall for time. So bosses up an Archeops to pass the turn. Yeah, because that other Lugia already has energy on it to charge it up. And of course, we're seeing a jet energy just to be the pivot. A boss's orders to bring up that Arceus V. And you can see yet again the power of the boss's orders. You could see why they turned Pokemon Catcher into a coin flip and then made its original effect into a supporter card. Just because it can be so game determinative. Although I had a lot of fun when Pokemon Catcher wasn't a flip. So Sydney was super far behind in game 1, and in game 2, I legitimately don't think there's anything that he can do to come back from this. Especially with that hand, Boss's orders Arceus. Just boss the Archeops yet again. Try to stick something in the active, and that Archeops can just charge itself up and attack here. I wouldn't even be too opposed to that. We are going to just put a jet energy on ourselves so we can retreat, and we have the Pumpkaboo to bump the path, then the Luminion to grab the boss's orders and just win the game by knocking out the Arceus V. And there is Gabriel winning the Pokemon World Championships Okay, I swear I didn't knock the cord out of my mic. Okay, well, Gabriel wins the World Championships in the Senior Division. So, as always, guys, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe as listed there up above. And we will see you guys next time for the Masters Division Finals of this 2023 Pokemon Trading Card Game World Championships. See you guys then.